The massive observation ship Nexus Sentinel hung in the inky blackness of space, its quantum prismatic hull absorbing and refracting starlight. Supreme Coordinator Zixel ran 3 manipulative appendages across the holographic display, his iridescent skin shifting between shades of contemptuous blue and dismissive gray. Another unremarkable system, he muttered to his primary science officer, a slim, neural-augmented being named Krellix. Another primitive planetary cluster. The holographic representation of Earth rotated slowly, revealing a world of swirling blues and greens, punctuated by landmasses that looked like fractured pieces of a broken puzzle. Krellix's sensory tendrils twitched with an unusual frequency, something the Supreme Coordinator failed to notice. Preliminary scans indicate minimal technological development, Krellix reported, his voice a precise computational drone. Rudimentary radio communications, fossil fuel dependency, no evidence of advanced energy manipulation or interstellar capabilities. Zixel leaned back in his bioengineered command chair, its neural interfaces adapting to his biomechanical contours. The Galactic Concordance had long categorized Earth as a Type 0 civilization, barely above planetary self-awareness, certainly not worth serious consideration. Unbeknownst to the alien observers, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was at that exact moment standing on a windswept research platform deep in the Pacific Ocean. Her fingers traced the intricate patterns of an artifact recovered from a depth no human expedition had previously reached. The metallic surface seemed to shimmer with an impossible complexity, its molecular structure defying every known scientific classification. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered, adjusting her high-resolution microscopic scanner. The artifact's composition suggested technologies millennia beyond current human understanding, yet it appeared aged, as if it had waited in the ocean's darkness for an incomprehensible duration. Back on the alien ship, a low-frequency alarm suddenly pierced the bridge's ambient soundscape. Krellix's neural tendrils went rigid. "Coordinator," he said, his computational voice developing an almost imperceptible tremor, "we're experiencing an anomalous quantum interference. The planetary system is responding." Zixel's dismissive demeanor fractured. Quantum interference wasn't just unusual, it was practically impossible without advanced technological infrastructure. And this was coming from a planet they had categorically labeled as technologically infantile. On Earth, Elena Rodriguez felt something too. A vibration that wasn't physical, a resonance that seemed to originate from the artifact itself. The intricate patterns began to shift, microscopic structures realigning in sequences that suggested deliberate communication. The Nexus Sentinel suddenly experienced a complete system disruption. Navigation matrices flickered. Quantum communication channels dissolved into static. For precisely 147 milliseconds, every electronic and biocomputational system on the ship went dark, then rebooted with fragmented, incomprehensible data streams. Zixel's rage was immediate and volcanic. What just happened? Krellix's response was measured but laden with an emotion rare for his species: uncertainty. "I'm uncertain, Coordinator, but the planetary system, it's not what we thought it was." Beneath the ocean, Dr. Rodriguez held the artifact, which now pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light. Something ancient was awakening, something that had been waiting, watching, and preparing for far longer than any alien civilization could comprehend. The first seeds of a cosmic revelation had been planted. Humanity's true nature was about to be dramatically, irrevocably revealed. The international research vessel Horizon Breaker cut through the pre-dawn Pacific waters, its hull humming with anticipation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the primary workstation, surrounded by a carefully assembled team of experts from disciplines that rarely collaborated: quantum physicists, xenorchaeologists, genetic researchers, and material scientists. "These readings are impossible," muttered Dr. Akira Tanaka, a quantum physicist whose reputation for skepticism was legendary in academic circles. His holographic displays danced with impossible data, molecular structures that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, defying every known principle of physics. The artifact lay at the center of a containment chamber, its surface now alive with a subtle, rhythmic luminescence. What had begun as a routine deep-sea expedition had transformed into something far more extraordinary. The metallic object, if metallic was even the right descriptor, seemed to pulse with an internal energy that no instrument could fully comprehend. Elena traced her fingers across a digital interface, reviewing the latest spectral analysis. "The molecular composition doesn't match anything in our databases," she said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and growing unease. "It's not just advanced. It's fundamentally different." Unbeknownst to the research team, their activities had triggered a cascade of responses far beyond the horizon breaker. In underground monitoring stations across the globe, classified networks began to light up. Quantum anomalies spiked. Genetic markers that had lain dormant for millennia began to stir. Professor Marcus Rice, a geneticist specializing in human evolutionary patterns, leaned in close to Elena. "Look at these genetic sequence variations," he whispered, his hands trembling slightly as he manipulated the holographic display. "These aren't mutations. They're reactivations." The artifact suddenly pulsed, a wave of energy that momentarily blinded every sensor on the ship. When the systems recalibrated, something had changed. Microscopic structures within the object had rearranged themselves, creating patterns that looked suspiciously like complex computational matrices. On the Nexus Sentinel, light years away, Krelix's monitoring systems went into overdrive. "Coordinator," he called out, his computational voice now tinged with something approaching emotion. "The quantum resonance from the planetary system is increasing exponentially." Zixel's response was immediate. "Initiate deep scan protocols. I want to know every microscopic detail about what's happening." Back on Earth, Elena Rodriguez experienced something unprecedented. As her hand hovered near the artifact, she saw, or perhaps felt, a cascade of images. Civilizations rising and falling, technological marvels beyond imagination, cosmic migrations that spanned millennia. They weren't just images, they were memories. "It's trying to communicate," she breathed, her scientific skepticism warring with an inexplicable sense of recognition. The artifact's surface began to unfold, not physically, but in some quantum dimension that defied traditional understanding. Complex geometric patterns emerge, each a potential key to understanding something fundamental about human existence. Professor Reyes noticed something first. The genetic markers of everyone on the research vessel were subtly changing, not mutating, remembering. Something ancient was awakening, and humanity was about to discover that their true history was nothing like they had ever imagined. The first signs were subtle, almost imperceptible. A quantum physicist in Mumbai suddenly solved a decades-old mathematical problem during her morning commute. A construction worker in Sao Paulo began speaking an unknown language that linguistic experts would later identify as an ancient dialect with roots in no known human civilization. A teenage student in rural Alaska started sketching complex technological schematics that would revolutionize quantum computing. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the global phenomenon unfold from the research center, her team tracking the unprecedented cognitive expansion with a mixture of scientific curiosity and growing wonder. "It's not random," she told her colleagues, pointing to the holographic displays that tracked hundreds of simultaneous cognitive breakthroughs. "These are synchronized, coordinated." The artifact they had discovered in the Pacific was more than just a technological key. It was a catalyst. Genetic researchers discovered something extraordinary. Human DNA was changing, not through mutation, but through what could only be described as activation. Dormant genetic sequences that had existed for millennia were suddenly coming online, bringing with them fragments of memories, technological understanding, and cosmic awareness. Supreme Coordinator Zixel received the first reports from Earth and found them incomprehensible. "This is impossible," he muttered to Krelix, his primary science officer. The quantum monitoring systems showed something unprecedented: an entire planetary population experiencing simultaneous cognitive expansion. In research centers around the globe, scientists struggled to comprehend the scale of the transformation. MRI scans showed neural networks expanding, creating connections that defied previous understanding of human brain functionality. People were experiencing what could only be described as ancestral memories, vivid recollections of technologies, civilizations, and cosmic migrations that had no place in current human historical understanding. A farmer in Kansas suddenly understood quantum engineering principles. A retired schoolteacher in Tokyo began describing complex interstellar navigation technologies. Children drew blueprints for technologies that would take decades to understand fully. "We're not developing new knowledge," Dr. Rodriguez explained during an emergency global broadcast. "We're remembering something we've always known." The global response was complex. Governments scrambled to understand the phenomenon. Military establishments found their personnel experiencing profound shifts in cognitive capabilities. Economic systems began to transform as people gained insights that rendered previous technological limitations obsolete. Krelix's analysis was both terrifying and fascinating. "They're not just expanding," he reported to Zixel. "They're reconnecting to something far larger than a single planetary civilization." The artifact pulsed with a soft, rhythmic energy. Its true purpose was becoming clear. It was a trigger, a quantum key designed to awaken something that had been dormant within humanity for millennia. By the end of the first week, it was clear that nothing would ever be the same. Humanity was remembering its true nature, and the galaxy was about to discover that everything it thought it knew was wrong. Something ancient was awakening, and it had been waiting a very long time. The Geneva Innovation Complex transformed overnight. What had been a cutting-edge research facility became ground zero for humanity's most extraordinary technological leap. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that seemed to defy the laws of physics, her team working in a state of collective, almost telepathic collaboration. "It's not just technological reconstruction," she explained to the gathered international committee. "We're experiencing a global cognitive expansion. These aren't just blueprints, they're genetic memories." Around her, screens displayed impossible technologies. Quantum computing systems that operated on principles previously thought inconceivable. Energy generation methods that could transform entire planetary ecosystems. Transportation technologies that made current rocket science look like primitive stone tools. In a secure lab nearby, Dr. Akira Tanaka worked with a team decoding what they'd begun to call the ancestral matrices, complex technological blueprints embedded within human genetic code. Each breakthrough came with a profound realization. Humanity had not been developing technology. They had been remembering it. The global reaction was complex. Governments scrambled to understand and control the technological renaissance. Military establishments worldwide found their most advanced weapon systems suddenly obsolete. Economic models collapsed and reformed within weeks. "We're not just advancing," Dr. Rodriguez told her closest colleagues. "We're reclaiming something that was always part of us." The first practical demonstration came unexpectedly. A research team in Brazil developed a medical nanite system that could reconstruct human tissue at the cellular level, effectively reversing aging and healing previously incurable conditions. Within days, similar breakthroughs emerged simultaneously in research centers across the globe. Supreme Coordinator Zixel watched in mounting terror as human technological capabilities expanded exponentially. The Nexus Sentinel now maintained a constant surveillance, its advanced systems working overtime to comprehend the impossible transformation occurring on Earth. "They're developing technologies beyond our most advanced civilizations," Krelix reported, his computational voice betraying a hint of what could only be described as respect. "And they're doing it with a speed and intuition we cannot predict." The technological leap wasn't just about machines. Human cognitive capabilities expanded. People began experiencing enhanced pattern recognition, multi-dimensional problem solving, and an unprecedented level of collaborative thinking. It was as if dormant sections of the human brain were suddenly coming online. In Silicon Valley, a team of engineers developed a quantum communication network that could transmit information instantaneously across any distance, a technology that made current internet infrastructure look like prehistoric cave paintings. In Tokyo, architects designed self-sustaining cities that could adapt and regenerate like living organisms. Elena Rodriguez understood what was happening. This wasn't just technological development. It was technological remembrance. The artifact they had discovered in the Pacific was more than a technological key. It was a trigger, awakening something that had been dormant within human DNA for millennia. Humanity was not developing new technologies. They were remembering technologies so advanced they seemed like magic to their current understanding. Zixel made a fatal mistake. He ordered a preliminary reconnaissance mission to assess the human technological threat. Humanity was about to show the galaxy exactly who they truly were. The first shots weren't fired. They were quantum projected. The Nexus Sentinel materialized at the edge of the solar system, its massive hull bristling with technologies that had subjugated countless civilizations. Supreme Coordinator Zixel believed this would be another routine pacification mission, a final assessment before Earth's potential technological threat could fully manifest. He was catastrophically wrong. As the alien warship began its approach, something unprecedented happened. Earth's defensive systems that didn't officially exist moments before, sprang to life. Not with missiles or traditional weaponry, but with something far more sophisticated. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the Global Defense Command Center, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to anticipate her thoughts. The artifact they'd discovered was now revealed as something far more, a quantum key that had been slowly unlocking humanity's true potential. They're attempting a standard suppression protocol, she told the multinational command team. Her voice was calm, almost clinical. But they don't understand what we've become. The alien attack began with a standard quantum disruption wave, a technology that had decimated hundreds of developing civilizations. It was designed to collapse technological infrastructure, reduce communication networks to chaos, and render a planet defenseless. Instead, the wave encountered something impossible. Earth's defensive systems didn't just absorb the attack. They reflected it, transformed it, and sent it back amplified 1,000-fold. The Nexus Sentinel's quantum shields flickered like a candle in a hurricane. Zixel's rage was instantaneous. Impossible. He screamed, his iridescent skin shifting through colors of absolute fury. Krillix, the ship's primary science officer, responded with something approaching awe. They're not just defending. They're learning, adapting. In real time, the confrontation expanded beyond traditional warfare. As the alien fleet attempted multiple attack vectors, humanity responded with a form of technological and cognitive warfare that defied every known galactic strategy. Communication networks transformed into adaptive intelligence matrices. Defensive systems became living, thinking entities that could predict and counter threats before they fully materialized. What the aliens saw as a primitive planetary civilization was revealing itself as something far more profound. We're not fighting, Elena said to her team. We're communicating, on a level they can't comprehend. Each alien attack was met not with simple resistance, but with a complex, multi-layered response that seemed to understand the attackers better than they understood themselves. Technological defenses morphed. Communication channels became weapons. The very fabric of human technological understanding was rewriting itself in real time. The Nexus Sentinel found itself trapped in a quantum landscape that seemed to shift and breathe, a living technological ecosystem that was equal parts defense, communication, and pure, incomprehensible intelligence. Zixel realized the terrifying truth. Humanity was not a developing civilization. They were an ancient species that had been waiting, watching, remembering. And now, they were awake. The first true confrontation between humanity and the galactic order had begun, and it was becoming abundantly clear that everything the aliens knew about technological supremacy was about to be fundamentally, irrevocably challenged. The aftermath of the initial confrontation was unlike anything the galactic community had ever witnessed. It wasn't a victory in the traditional sense. It was a complete paradigm shift. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the United Nations Special Assembly, her presentation transcending typical diplomatic communication. Holographic displays danced around her, revealing fragments of humanity's true cosmic history, a history that had been hidden, not lost. "We are not what we appeared to be," she began, her voice steady and profound. "Humanity is an archive, a living repository of cosmic memory." The revelations came in waves. Archaeological sites around the globe began to transform. Ancient structures revealed themselves as complex technological matrices. The pyramids of Egypt, the stone circles of Göbekli Tepe, the underground cities of Cappadocia. Each was a fragment of a much larger, more intricate technological legacy. Supreme Coordinator Zixel watched from the Nexus Sentinel, his once supreme confidence now replaced by a growing sense of existential dread. Krelix analyzed the incoming data streams, his neural networks struggling to process the implications. "They're not just a civilization," Krelix reported, his computational voice developing an almost philosophical tone. "They're a living historical record." Genetic researchers discovered that human DNA was unlike anything previously understood. It wasn't just a biological code. It was a complex, adaptive information storage system. Memories, technologies, entire civilizational experiences were encoded at a molecular level, waiting to be awakened. Global communications networks transformed. What had been internet infrastructure became a living, adaptive cognitive system. Information didn't just flow. It evolved, learned, and responded. Universities became obsolete overnight as humans began directly accessing ancestral knowledge. The first truly global telepathic network emerged, not through technological implants, but through a profound understanding of human cognitive potential. People began experiencing shared memories of civilizations that had risen and fallen long before recorded history. Elena discovered the most profound revelation. Humanity wasn't a single species that had developed on Earth. They were survivors, remnants of a cosmic civilization that had survived multiple planetary destructions. Earth was not their origin. It was their sanctuary. Alien diplomatic missions arrived, expecting to find a civilization to negotiate with or subjugate. Instead, they found something entirely unexpected. A species that understood them better than they understood themselves. "We're not here to fight," Elena told the assembled alien representatives. "We're here to remember, and to remind you of something you've forgotten." The galactic power structures began to crumble. Technological hierarchies that had existed for millennia dissolved as humanity demonstrated capabilities that rendered previous understanding of progress obsolete. Zixel made a fatal miscalculation. He attempted to initiate a diplomatic isolation protocol, a standard procedure for potentially threatening civilizations. Humanity's response was both beautiful and terrifying. They didn't resist. They simply showed the galaxy who they truly were. The great unraveling had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The final confrontation was nothing like anyone had predicted. The combined alien armada arrived at the solar system's edge, a massive convergence of technological might representing hundreds of galactic civilizations. Supreme Coordinator Zixel had orchestrated the most extensive military assembly in recorded galactic history. Thousands of warships, each capable of destroying entire planetary systems, formed a vast technological tapestry of destruction. Their mission was simple: neutralize the human threat before it could fully manifest. They were spectacularly unprepared. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood aboard the Horizon Prime, humanity's first true quantum adaptive command vessel. It wasn't a ship in the traditional sense. It was a living technological organism that responded to human thought and collective consciousness. "They don't understand," she said quietly to her command team. "They're still fighting the last war." The alien assault began with a synchronized quantum disruptive strike, a weapon that had systematically dismantled hundreds of developing civilizations. Designed to collapse technological infrastructure and communication networks in milliseconds, it was the ultimate first-strike weapon. Humanity's response was breathtaking in its complexity. The solar system itself came alive. Not just Earth, but every planetary body became a coordinated defensive matrix. Asteroids transformed into adaptive shield generators. The magnetic fields of Jupiter became computational networks. Saturn's rings became a communication web that could process information faster than any known technological system. Zixel watched in mounting horror as his carefully planned assault dissolved into chaos. Human defensive capabilities weren't just advanced, they were fundamentally incomprehensible. "They're not defending," Krellix reported, his computational voice developing an almost emotional resonance. "They're conversing with the entire solar system." Each alien weapon was met not with traditional counterforce, but with a multilayered response that simultaneously neutralized the threat, analyzed its computational structure, and began to integrate its technological principles. Humanity wasn't just defending. They were learning, adapting, evolving in real time. Massive energy weapons that could vaporize planets were transformed mid-assault into complex communication arrays. Destruction became information. Weapons became dialogues. The human response transcended military strategy. It was a form of cosmic communication so advanced it was indistinguishable from consciousness itself. Zixel's ultimate weapon, a planet-killer device that could destroy entire ecosystems, was systematically dismantled, its energy redistributed into a global regeneration matrix that began healing damaged planetary systems. "We're not here to fight," Alina broadcast across all alien communication spectrums. "We're here to remember, and to help you remember." The confrontation lasted less than 3 standard galactic hours, but it fundamentally altered the understanding of technological warfare, civilization, and cosmic potential. When the final energy signatures dissipated, the alien armada was not destroyed. It was transformed, integrated, understood. Humanity had not conquered. They had remembered, and in that remembrance, they had offered something far more profound than victory. They had offered understanding. 10 standard galactic cycles after the Great Confrontation, the universe looked fundamentally different. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Reconciliation Center, a massive orbital structure that defied traditional architectural understanding. It was simultaneously a diplomatic hub, a living research facility, and a cosmic communication network. The transformation was complete, yet still unfolding. Humanity had not become conquerors. They had become guides, repositories of cosmic memory, living bridges between civilizations that had forgotten their interconnectedness. Supreme Coordinator Zixel, now a diplomatic liaison rather than a military commander, approached Alina. The fundamental relationship between their species had transformed beyond recognition. What had begun as a potential conflict had become a profound journey of mutual understanding. "We never understood," Zixel said, his once iridescent skin now displaying a complex pattern of collaborative memories. "Civilization is not about conquest, it's about remembrance." The solar system had become a beacon of cosmic restoration. Earth was no longer just a planet, it was a living archive. Ancient technologies were being carefully restored, not as weapons, but as tools of universal healing. Planetary ecosystems that had been damaged by millennia of conflict began to regenerate. Krellix, now part of a joint research initiative, presented the latest findings. Humanity's genetic memory wasn't just a technological marvel, it was a cosmic preservation system. Civilizations thought lost were being reconstructed, not through archaeological fragments, but through the living memory encoded in human DNA. "We're not just remembering," Elena explained to the assembled Galactic Council. "We're reconnecting. Every species carries fragments of a larger cosmic story." The diplomatic breakthrough was profound. Humanity didn't seek dominance. They offered understanding. Technologies that had been used for destruction were now being transformed into tools of planetary and cultural restoration. Quantum communication networks now spanned entire galactic clusters, but they weren't just technological connections. They were living, adaptive systems of mutual understanding. Species that had been isolated for millennia began to rediscover their shared cosmic heritage. The artifact found in the Pacific Ocean was now understood as something far more significant. It was a quantum key, a trigger that had awakened humanity's true potential. Not a weapon, not a technology, but a memory restoration device. "We've been waiting," Elena told the Council, "not to conquer, but to remember." Planetary restoration projects began across multiple star systems. Ecosystems that had been devastated by millennia of conflict found themselves being carefully, methodically healed. It wasn't just technological intervention. It was a form of cosmic empathy that transcended previous understanding. The greatest discovery was yet to come. Humanity began to uncover evidence of even more profound cosmic mysteries, hints of civilizations that predated known galactic history, suggestions of cycles of creation and restoration that spanned dimensions beyond current comprehension. Zixel looked at Elena, a gesture of profound respect, replacing the old dynamics of conflict. "What comes next?" he asked. Elena smiled. The universe was about to remember something extraordinary. "We continue," she said. "We remember, we restore."